Hi guys, welcome to our second video on factorising. In this video we're going to be talking about grouping factors, we're going to be talking about quadratic factors and the difference of two squares. So far in our keyword list we've looked at factor pair, factors and highest common factors. In this video we're going to be looking at the last three. So what is grouping? Well, when we wish to factorise an expression that has four terms, first thing we have to do is remove the common factor from two pairs of terms, and then we have to remove the common factor from the new expression. Let's have a look at our first example. If I want to factorise ax plus ay plus bx plus by, I have to look at what they have in common. So if I look at my first two terms, they both have the letter A in common, and my second two both have the letter B. So I can factorise them according to their letter. So I'm going to take A out of both. If I take A out of the first two, I'm left with A bracket x plus y. And if I take B out of the second two terms, I'm left with plus B bracket x plus y. Now you'll notice there that what ends up in my middle bracket is actually the same on both sides. And now we combine everything together. So we're left with A plus B to give me x and y. The A and B have both merged from here, and my x and y have come down here. Let's have a look at another one with some minus signs in it. I have AP minus 2BP plus 2AQ minus 4BQ. So in this one, not only do we have minus signs, we also have some numbers. So if I have a look at my first two, we'll see the only letter they have in common is P. In my second two, they actually have a highest common factor in the form of 2, and they also have Q. So my first bracket I factorise as normal. I remove the P and I'm left with A minus 2B. In the second bracket I have 2Q bracket A minus 2B. And again you'll notice that in the middle too I have the exact same thing. So I'm going to pair everything together. So I'm going to bring my 2 and my 2Q and my P down together, and that leaves me with P plus 2Q, and then I bring down my bracket A minus 2B. At this point in time, I'd like you to have a look at exercise 3 and then homework 3. Pause the video while you try to attempt exercise 3. Don't forget to look at the last two examples to help you out. When we're grouping factors that have a negative sign, we may need to rearrange them in order to factorise them. Let's have a look at an example. So in our example, I have 2ax minus 2bx minus ay plus by. So like always, we look for the things that they have in common. So if we look at the first two terms, we'll see that they have 2 and the x matching up in both terms, and in our second term we will see that they have b and y. If we're having a look at these, we need to make sure we're dealing with our signs very, very carefully. So I'm going to remove the 2x from my first bracket, and I'm left with a minus B. Now I want to end up with A minus B in the second bracket, but have a look up at the top. How does a plus become a minus? Well, if I'm removing the y, it must be a minus y, so that a minus multiplied by a minus will bring me back to my plus. So my final answer reads 2x minus y all multiplied by A minus B. So be very careful with your signs. Pause the video while you have a go at exercise 4. Remember, in this one, you are testing your skill of using the signs correctly. So minus multiplied by minus will always give me a plus. Okay guys, here's a really important keyword, the idea of a quadratic, okay? A quadratic has an x term, an x squared term, and a constant. It needs to have all of those conditions for it to be a quadratic. And we have a simple example down here, x squared plus 7x plus 10. Now we want to be able to factorize these, and we have something very important that we need to do. We need to make sure that the number in the middle is the sum of the factors of the number at the end. Let's have a look at a better example. We want to factorize x squared plus 8x plus 15. So I would always start by doing out my factors of 15. So what numbers multiply to give me 15? 1 by 15 and 3 multiplied by 5. The next thing I need to look at is which of these combinations add together to give me 8. So if we have a look, 1 plus 15 gives me 16. That's not 8. 3 plus 5, add them together, and that gives me 8. Super, we're on to the right start. And now we want to factorize. So I open my two sets of brackets. In order to get an x squared at the very front, I'll need to make sure that both of my brackets start with an x. Because my signs are plus, they'll be followed by a plus sign. And then I'll include my two factors of 3 and 5. So this ends up becoming a factorized version of my original equation. Let's do another example. X squared plus 10x plus 24. So we're going to start by listing the factors of the number at the end, or 24. So my factors include 1 by 24, 2 by 12, 3 multiplied by 8 is our next factor pair. Then we're going to have 4 by 6. What we need to do now is to see which one of these factor pairs adds up to 10. So 1 plus 24 gives me 25. That's not 10. Sorry, 1 plus 24 gives me 25, and that's not 10. 2 plus 12 is equal to 14. That's not 10. 3 plus 8 gives me 11. That's not 10. 4 plus 6 is equal to 10. So 4 plus 6 is the combination we're looking for. I'm now going to put together all of this information. Again, I open up my two sets of brackets and I include the x term at either end in order to get my x squared. I can include plus signs to make sure that all of my signs are correct, and I then include my factors of 4 and 6. Now pause the video while you attempt exercise 5. We have to be very careful when we're factorising quadratic expressions, especially when there's negative signs involved. So if we have a look at the example on the screen, we'll see that we're looking to factorise 8 squared minus 6x plus 8. So we're looking for factors of plus 8 that add up to negative 6. The only factors of 8 where both of them are negative are minus 1 multiplied by minus 8 and minus 2 multiplied by minus 4. The reason both numbers have to be negatives is that a negative multiplied by a negative will give me a positive. And I want to end up with a positive 8. The only way I can get negative 6 out of these is if I add together minus 2, minus 4, and both of those will give me minus 6. My minus 1 option, minus 8, ends up being minus 9. So my answer turns out to be x minus 2 multiplied by x minus 4. Again, the next exercise involves being very careful with your negative signs. Pause the video while you complete exercise 6. Again, be very, very careful of your signs, remembering that a negative multiplied by a negative will give me a positive. Be very careful when you're adding numbers as well. If we're adding numbers that have different signs, we always stick with the bigger number's sign. The last type of quadratic that we're going to meet is called the difference of two squares. And this is a type of quadratic that we may come across when we multiply two expressions that only differ by one sign. If we have a look at the following one, we have x minus 5 and we have x plus 5. So if I was to multiply it out, it would look something like this. We'd know that brackets mean multiply, and we can see from our first line that the only difference between the two brackets are the signs involved. If we carry out our multiplication, we're going to get x squared plus 5x minus 5x minus 25, which leaves me with x squared plus 5x and minus 5x leaves me with 0 minus 25. And this is called the difference of two squares. Now let's try factorize one. Let's have a look at this example. Y squared minus 81. Well, the factors of y can only ever be y. 81 is an even square number, and the square of 81 is 9. Because I want to end up with a minus 81, one of my 9's needs to be positive and one of them needs to be negative. Last example, we have x squared minus 225. Again, the only values that are going to multiply together to give me x squared are x. 225 happens to be an even square as well, so it's an even square root of 15. Again, I want to end up with a minus sign here, so our two signs must be different. So we'll have a positive and a negative. Now pause the video while you complete exercise 7. Don't forget, your signs need to be different and our numbers involved are always even square roots.